Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Hope you're doing well today. What we're going to talk about is a topic that I get asked quite a bit, and it's a subject that I've had to deal with myself, and that is going to be how to stop shaking under maximum loads in the bench. So it's a fairly common issue. I'm sure we've all seen it where somebody gets under a heavy load, a maximum load for them, and it's all relative depending on who it is and what weight they're handling, but they are taking a heavy weight out, and they start to shake. Sometimes you can even hear the plates rattling together and shaking, and they are doing that the entire lift or a good portion of the lift. And in my experience, there's been three glaring things or reasons why this happens. So we're going to go through those. So the first, most obvious one is going to be the CNS aspect to handling the heavy weight. If it's something you're not used to, CNS gets overloaded. Some people shake. Some people might hear noises. Like I actually hear a ringing sound in my ears, a little ping. Vision blurs. I kind of do all of the above. Shaking's not really been a big issue with me, at least for the last 10 years. But I've had very slow, consistent progress over the last 10 years, taking very, very small jumps, ticking it up really slowly over time from my first 1,000-pound bench, which was back in 2020, to now doing 1452 here in 2025. So one way to build the CNS is to how Scott Mendelson usually says it. He fries the CNS. And you do that by handling the heavy load, shocking the system. Then you recover from it. That's really important too. You have to be able to recover from that CNS shock. Come back a week, sometimes 2 weeks later. I know when my CNS gets shocked, I have to take 2 weeks before I come back strong. And then once you recover from that, the CNS is now stronger, more resilient. And you do that over and over and over again for years on end. CNS overload is kind of double-edged, where it's the reason why it's happening, the shaking, but it's also a way to fix it. So if you're never exposing yourself to heavier loads than what you're training with, so if you're trying to bench 600, 700, that's all you handle, you're having these shakes, a static hold every once in a while might not be a bad idea. Overloading your system by 150, 250 pounds, that will be a topic for another video. So absolutely train the CNS just like you do anything else. Overload it, make it stronger over time. That can help prevent shaking. So what I have for you next is a topic that I have been very, very adamant about. This is a personal thing for the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years. That's made one of the biggest impacts on my training, on my strength gains, and on my competitive readiness, and that is my salt intake. In my personal experience, up to about 2020 or 2021, I was still in the old frame of thinking from years past, from training partners past or gyms, where when you want to load for a competition, get ready for a meet that week, you really want to load up on your Pedialyte and your Gatorade. Those things have done more harm to me than good than I'm willing to admit, more times than I can count. So Gatorade, Pedialyte are very common, like electrolyte replacers, and you want to load up on as much of it as you possibly can leading up to your meet, right, to be as hydrated as possible. The problem is the sugar content, and what happens is you end up pissing out everything that you're trying to retain. So eventually I made the switch to, well, the first company that I went with was actually the Element package, the LMNT, sodium, retaining water instead of pissing it out. So when I would go to these competitions, loaded up on Gatorade and water and Pedialyte the week of, and also the day and morning of, and the night before, especially after trying to like make weight, which I haven't had to make weight in a long time. But back when I was trying to cut and stay under a certain weight class, yeah, those are very common things. A lot of Pedialyte, a lot of Gatorade. And what would happen would be I would piss everything out, especially the day of the meet. That was super annoying, especially if the bathrooms were a considerable distance away. Just like a racehorse, back and forth between the bathroom, pissing. And I would feel extremely weak for very obvious reasons. And everything I was trying to keep in, my body was just flushing out. I would feel flat. I would feel empty, and I had no strength. And I would shake uncontrollably under what would be, an opener would be like a sub-maximal load. Now that I've been implementing a higher sodium content, appropriate for like my body weight and my goals in the gym and on the platform, I have not had this problem. I'm able to take in a lot of hydration and water and retain it and become strong and stay strong and be full and not feel weak and flat under the weight and not shake, especially under maximum and even above maximal, like 110, 120% overloads. I don't have that shaking problem, except in very rare circumstances. But overall, my salt content being higher, again, for what's appropriate for myself, okay, this is a personal thing, has really helped with the shaking issue. And the last topic we'll talk about today is one that I have seriously neglected for years and only really started addressing about 2 years ago, 2023, or even the beginning of 2024. And that is going to be forearms. The lower half of your arms have a very large group of very small muscles. And when we're trying to lift the most weight possible, sometimes you are going to be limited on how much you can actually lift based on what is the weakest or the most underdeveloped. So when we're doing big, heavy bench presses, us equipped guys, we're going to have wrist wraps right here. So we got compression here on the wrist. We have our shirt, which is going to be way up here. We got compression and coverage on the upper arm. And your lower arm has absolutely no coverage whatsoever, no compression. It is completely exposed to all the forces that you're putting upon it in the bench press. But because my numbers continue to climb, again, hitting my first 1,000-pound bench in 2020, and then 2021, I would go from 1035 to 1050, 1080, 1120, all in the same year, in the same shirt, too, my single-ply journey of 2021. So because my weights went up, I kind of didn't really even think about it. It was something I just never thought about. Then once we approached 2022 and I left the single ply world behind and got into the unlimited category with the band shirts, and my weight started to climb into the 1200, 13, 14, and now we're up into the 1450 range. So I started getting these issues where I was shaking really bad. I could not identify the problem, but it took me getting into a lot of pain to really identify what the problem was. So because my forearms were so underdeveloped and my weight started to climb so rapidly and so fast over those 2 years, I had to address the problem. So I realized, okay, your forearms are weak. They're not up to snuff. You have to build those too. And really thinking about the forces that are at play under a 1,450-pound lift or even less, 1,400, 1,350, my first 1,320, right? So thinking about all the forces that are being done to the musculature and to the bone structure, I really started addressing the forearms again, probably the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. I took a lot of inspiration from the arm wrestlers and how they train forearms. You look at any top arm wrestler in the world, they have the most impressive lower arm development on the planet. And a good friend of mine that I currently work with was experiencing a similar issue, shaking uncontrollably under heavy loads or even like submaximal loads for him. And I was like, well, let's try this thing. And I explained how I have one workout per week, an entire workout per week dedicated to just forearm work. And that doesn't mean grip work. Like people get it twisted. I do not have good grip being a bench press only athlete. I'm squeezing the bar for what's appropriately loaded on the bar. I'm not, being loose. But I say, grip is different than training forearms directly. So we did, your flexor work, your extensors, your deviations, ulnar deviations, pronation work. Again, a lot of words and inspiration from the world of arm wrestling. And he's been doing it for about a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks. And immediately, just in that short amount of time, has seen tremendous impact on his bench stability. So in short terms, for bench pressing, definitely do not want to neglect forearm work. We're always obsessed with learning the shirt, learning the groove, mastering the shirt, working triceps, upper back, super important for big benching, triceps, arms, but not often included in that conversation is the lower arms. The forearms need to be very big, well-developed, extremely resilient to be able to stabilize and hold up to the amount of force that you're putting upon them. So there we have my 3 tips on how to stop shaking under maximum loads in the bench press. We have your CNS, that's overloading and developing the CNS. We have your salt or your sodium intake and try to stay away from sugary drinks like Gatorade and Pedialyte. Then we have forearm development, which is a huge stabilizer in the bench. and a heavily, heavily overlooked aspect when it comes to bench pressing big weights. I hope you enjoyed today's video and the topic. And if you want to see my full workouts, you can go to Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/Kolbstrong. Or if you don't want to have to download Patreon and go in there, you can go through YouTube and join the members to see the exact same content. Both are for $10 a month. And if you want to see more awesome videos from me regarding the bench press world, you can subscribe to my channel. That means a lot to me. And we'll see you on the next video.